This week's Sedra is Sedrat Toldos. Is prayer effective? This question has been both at the forefront and in the back of the minds of every human being since Adam. Does God really listen to prayer? If God does listen, does he really change events because we prayed for a change? God can't be influenced like man. Forms of flattery, begging, and emotional pleas don't affect God as they do man. How can prayer be effective? This week's Torah portion, Sedra Toldos, includes a unique prayer. For many reasons, this prayer is challenged by our great scholars. After reading the prayer, this essay will record some of the scholars' questions and challenges. God wrote, Yitzchak was 40 years old when he took Rivka, the daughter of Bethuel, the Aramean of Padan Aram, the sister of Lavan the Aramean, to himself for a wife. Yitzchak prayed to the Lord opposite his wife because she was barren, and the Lord accepted his prayer, and Rivka his wife conceived. Rashi explained that Yitzchak was standing in this corner praying, and Rivka was standing in that corner and praying, both praying together. The Chizkuni wrote that God had already told Avram that your lineage would continue through Yitzchak. As Avram's son and appointed heir, Yitzchak knew that he was going to have a son. That wasn't in question. He didn't need to pray for himself to have a son. The Chizkuni explained that Yitzchak still needed to pray so that his wife and the woman he knew would be a perfect mother to his son and matriarch for his descendants would be the one to birth and raise his son. The Sforno wrote that Yitzchak didn't need to pray for a son because he was already promised a child by God. The Sforno explained that he prayed for a son not to be born, but for a child that would be proper and refined. The Chizkuni and the Sforno are two great scholars and commentators on the Torah. They taught principles and lessons in the Torah that hundreds of years later are still being studied, as we are right now. In their challenges and explanations of Yitzchak's prayer, they taught us a fundamental lesson about prayer. And listen carefully, because this is really important. Prayer isn't solely a method of acquiring what man desires. Prayer isn't a utilitarian activity designed to endear man to God in order to make life easier. God isn't the genie in a lamp who grants us our three wishes. The power of prayer is threefold. Prayer allows man to communicate with God. It allows man the opportunity to examine his priorities, and prayer opens up the possibility of divine providential interference with the natural course of events. In the Chizkuni's and Sforno's approach to Yitzchak's prayer, Yitzchak wasn't trying to have God grant him a wish. His wish of having a son was already promised. Rather, Yitzchak prayed to ensure that the purpose of God's promise was fulfilled in the most ideal way possible. Yitzchak's prayer reflected his understanding of God's promise and the priority it held in Yitzchak's life. Shabbat Shalom.